my God, Mr. Sam. Oh.
Sorry. Well, you said we were time limited, so I thought best crack on.
Crack on. Look at you, your big
Tired
cup
today,
of
aren't you?
tea, and me with my little baby one.
What's
My
that say?
big cups, my big cups in the dishwasher. This one
Right.
says Brighton. Brighton is very gay. No, sorry, Brighton is still very gay and full of balls. It's a quote from Samuel Rogers from 1829.
That's fantastic.
Favorite mug. I bought a
Still
with that.
as true today as it was in 1829.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it. I was chatting to a guy. I love Brighton. I mean, it's miles away from where I live now, but it's where my dad used to go out back in the day, mods and rockers and all that. Back
I
in
love
the
Brighton. I used to live down in Saltdean. There's a development of apartments in the old Billy Butlins Hotel. It's called the Grand Ocean Hotel.
Grand Ocean. It is.
Yeah, so like old sort of like Art Deco styly. And I did have a little apartment in there for a while. So I was frequenting Brighton. Love it. We should, in the summer, we should have a present and sober get together in Brighton. We can all go and jump in the sea.
Sweet.
And then, go do some cool shit, as you say. Look at me turning to you.
Say that.
Yeah, you do all the time. Let's do some cool shit.
I mean, what's better than doing cool shit? It's better than doing shit, isn't it?
Yeah. And also I should also say, because it's just reminded me of winding you up. There's one of our lovely ladies who's in one of our path groups, and she was tickled pink. She's an Aussie. She was tickled pink that I called the podcast a poddy.
Oh yeah.
And you didn't like it.
Oh, is it? Yeah. When did that happen? What, on the show?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that this lady messaged me and said, I've been listening to someone messaged me the other day and said, I've been listening to both of your poddies. And I was like, oh, that's fantastic, but don't say that.
Stop calling it a poddy, please.
It just didn't seem right. Oh, I got a stitch. See that word? I need to stand up. Hang on.
God, you've got a stitch. We've got bloody knits in the house again. Fucking hell. Up till 2 o'clock in the morning. Try to get rid of those little bastards.
I'd rather have a stitch. To be honest, I've had knits. Has happened. Like never as a kid, funnily enough, because I don't know, short hair or whatever. And then obviously now I've got long hair. And then Rob, when she worked in schools, she managed to, what's the word? Contract them. Is that the word?
Contract them. Port them home with her.
Contract knits. And so I have had to sit there late on a Friday night, just like having my hair combed with weird combs. Anyway, didn't think we'd start with this today, but here we are.
Yeah, here we are. There's all sorts of weird shit going on today, but we won't talk about any more of that. We're going to talk about the business.
The business? Are we? What business?
The business that we're in.
Oh,
I was
right.
about to say podcasting then. Podcasting.
Oh, right.
We're going to talk to you a very important subject today, which it came about. We do have a very lovely lady who was our first merchandise customer. By the way, there's merchandise available on the Present and Sober shop. What's the link, Sam?
Shop.presentandsober.com.
Go get yourself some merch. So our lovely first customer from the merch store, I was having a little chat with her on a call yesterday, and it was a brilliant discussion. And so I wanted to kind of bring that to life here because it will be massively useful for folks. And the discussion was broadly this: oh my God, I've got this massive work conference thing coming up. I haven't been to one for ages. I avoid them like plague. Fucking hate them. I feel like I'm more of an introvert. So the whole like being what she described, she said, I've got to be switched on for 5 days or something. Oh my God, I'm just dreading it, absolutely dreading it. What can I do? And so we had a fabulous discussion in the group coaching call. So I thought, why not bring it here and have a little chat and share all of the gems with our lovely, lovely listeners.
That's a good plan. Good plan. Cool shit. Okay.
And I know what I said, but I'm really interested in what you've got to say.
I don't know.
And I've kind of told you before we started recording this what I said.
Yeah, I'm just going to say everything that you said so that
yeah, and they'll be like,
something else.
Fuck you, Sam.
take a small animal with you and keep it in your pocket as a therapy
A
animal.
badger.
Oh, that's not small, is it? They're fucking massive.
Would it be? Yeah, they are quite big, aren't they? Have you ever fucking seen one like crossing the road?
Yeah, yeah. Not
Huge.
crossing the road, just like
So, I
lights.
saw one crossing the road
They're
once.
quite
I was like,
often
shit, it's a
nipping into
badger.
Tesco near
It's
me.
massive.
They're not they don't wait for the green man, silly little bastards. Um no, I have seen one charging through the dark, and one scared the living out of me when I was having a wee at a campsite. I thought, what the fuck? Oh, it's a badger. Oh my god. And so now it's become my spirit animal one way or another. I feel. And then anyway, yeah. What are we talking about then? Give me give me a prompt, give me a poke,
Well,
ask me a
what would you?
question.
So, if somebody says to you, like, I've got this work conference coming up, I'm absolutely dreading it. I hate them. I've got to be switched on the whole time. Don't want to go, but I have to. Duty, obligation, all of that. What would you say to them?
Yep. Okay. So someone asked me this question the other day, actually. So the first thing I would want to potentially talk about, I don't know exactly what I'd say, but whenever we're in those moments, it really does feel like, doesn't it? We're getting information from the future. Like we're running through what's going to happen in our head, and this is going to be like that, and that's going to be
Mm.
like this, and that ain't true. We can't feel the future. So the first thing I would sort of want to share with anybody is, look, just take a breath. It's not happening right now. If you have a story in your head that tells you it's going to be XYZ, you'll go in expecting XYZ, and you'll be much more likely to find that, because what the thing thinks, the prover proves. So probably want to have a bit of a chin wag around that. And I'd also want to be talking about, when it comes to all of these things, I mean, I know we're going to speak a little bit around, things that you can do to prepare and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of it is actually just knowing that we've all got a whole bunch of stuff that's ready to support us. Um, and the less thinking we've got, the better we do. Like if you go into something like that with a head full of bees, you just don't, you tend to feel insecure and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the honest truth is, whether you, and I know we might talk about this in depth on another show sometime soon, whether you what's the word, identify as an introvert, an extrovert, is it an ambivert? It's like the mixture, I think.
Oh
Whether you,
God.
or however you identify, the reality is, if you're if we're insecure, we don't do as well as if we've got less stuff going on in our head. So for me, it's like, yeah, it's going to be all right. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you don't need to learn, you don't need to plan or prepare for, that you've got going for you, that's going to be
Mm.
there to support you. Because I think, yeah, so they're two things that I'd probably, that I've literally had this conversation on a coaching call the other day, and they were two things that came up. So yeah, there's a start.
Well, it's an important start. I love that. I've heard you say this before about the head full of bees. Like it is like that, isn't it? And then there's no room for
Yeah.
anything else. No room for any new thinking or creating something. So I'm 100% with you. Like the falling away of the stuff is so freeing, because it's creating space and ease. So yeah,
And it's not,
anything.
yeah, go on, sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say, and even like sometimes it doesn't sort of fall away straight away. It's like not fighting it if that's the case. Because
Yes.
what I
Yeah.
think sometimes happen is, it's 3 days before the event, we do have a head full of bees or badgers or whatever's bouncing around our brain. Like it's full of stuff. And then we
Yeah.
like go to war with the stuff in our head, try and get rid of. It's like, it's okay. It's thought. Like it will pass. Very often it's the attempt to try and do something about it. Um,
Exactly.
that sticks more of it in our head, in my
Yeah.
experience.
It's like the simplest thing, isn't it? To just be aware of it, that being aware and just dropping back from it. And the thing is, over time, I was talking to somebody, was it yesterday? Oh yeah, it was. It was a really lovely lady in Australia. And I was saying to her, because she was talking about the thing about alcohol turning off the bees, right? And I said to her,
Rather than turning them on.
yeah,
Alcohol doesn't turn bees on, I don't think.
I said to her, like, if your goal is to quieten the mind such that like you don't have that thinking going on. Like you're not going to do that. Like for the entire time that you're in a physical body, you're going to think stuff. But over time, if you don't associate with it so much, if you don't get enmeshed into it, it doesn't hold the same power, and it won't go well together, but it will quieten. It doesn't, it fades. It's like what's foregrounding and what's fading off in the background. And the more, and this is why I love thinking of it like a practice, because the more that um, loosen your grip on it, then it just, off it goes. And then it'll come back. And then you let go of it again, and off it goes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because there'll be moments in our life where there's seemingly no thinking, but there's always something going on, right? Even if there's not conscious thought, there's
Yeah.
unconscious stuff going on. Like, it's such a small percentage of what's going on in the special effects department anyway. There's always
Mm.
something bumbling around somewhere, right? Because
Even,
yeah,
I was going
well,
to say, even when you're sleeping, right?
well, sure,
Even when you're sleeping,
exactly.
I mean, what a fascinating little realm that is.
I mean, we're closer to like Mr. Banks said, we're closer to how it really is when we're asleep. Like it,
Yeah.
like lots large parts of the conditioned mind are like falling away, and we're just kind of like
Yes.
afloat
Yes.
in this like subtle state of consciousness. It's closer to true consciousness potentially than in the
Yeah.
waking state. Anyway, that's definitely a conversation for another
Oh,
day.
no.
But
I know.
the thing is, it's true because if we're kind of content, so I've been said this a lot with people with meditation. We often think that like, oh, the goal of meditation is to enter a state of relaxation. It's like, no, the goal of meditation really is to sit and be content with what's going on, whether you've got a traffic jam in your head or a clear highway. Like that's the whole point.
Mm.
And then because that is actually a much more powerful um way of being than attempting to try and obliterate all of the thoughts out of your head via
Yeah.
alcohol or something like that, right? Because like you say, it's like good luck, because at some point you're gonna you're gonna have a thought pop in your head. Like we think that's what we do.
Mm.
So that is it. So it's how we relate to this stuff ahead of time, is like if we think that the all of the stuff in our head is a huge problem, in quotes, which is what a lot of people often describe it as, then we're looking for like some kind of huge solution to our huge problem, when
Mm.
actually it's just thought. And it's it can pass just as easily as it comes. Is if we stop resisting it a lot of the time. There's new
Yeah.
stuff on the way, new thought on the way, new
Yeah.
ways of
Nice.
relating to the world on the way.
What's
Yeah.
going on with my hair today?
Oh goodness,
Crazy
man.
thing.
I often think that. I'm glad you said that.
Oh, dear me.
I'm joking.
Um, well, the other thing that came up on this call, which was wonderful, because the call started off with another person sharing, and it was it was wonderful because what she was effectively sharing was that she'd um, instilled a boundary, and so her son had called her, and um, she doesn't get to speak to him very often, and so it had that pull for like would love to speak to him because he's just happened to call like right before the call that she was wanting to come on with the group. But rather than get swept away with the feeling of I must do this now,
Mm,
she said to him, can you call back in an hour or so when I've done this call? And it was a big deal for her. And he was
yeah.
like, yeah, no problem. She went, God, the world's like carried on spinning. Like, yes. So that then brought us into a conversation about caring about ourselves enough to, it's like sticking your neck out for the things that you really need. Because what I heard in our lovely sharers share was I have to be on. I have all of this duty to show up for people, for clients, for
Mm,
employees, and I've got no choice in this. Like I have to be a certain kind of way. And so we can talk, we can open this up a little bit, but we got into boundaries and the recognition of like, so because nobody else can put those kind of things in place for you. And when you start to care about yourself enough to say yes or no. You know, I've referenced quite a lot. Was it last week that we were recording? And I said to you, this was a bit like today. Like I've got a hard stop at time. And last week, I think it was because I needed to eat something proper because, you know, Tuesday afternoons can be a really, really hectic day.
Yeah.
And I was saying how, like, if I hadn't have said to you, oh, I need to finish at such and such a time, we could just keep going and going and going.
Mm.
But for me to say to you, oh, it's going to have to be this time today, and you're like, yeah, cool, no problem, no problemo. And then I get to go and eat properly,
Yeah.
and I'm nourished, and then I can get through the rest of my day showing up in the way that I want to. But like you couldn't do that for me. You could possibly say, oh, are you getting your lunch today,
Are you
Ellie?
hungry? Yeah.
Are you hungry?
Yeah.
But like that's not your job. Although I might make it your job one day. You can
I'll,
be my
I can,
servant,
I'll attempt. I'll attempt to do
sidekick,
it. I
prop,
can't imagine.
servant.
Can't imagine I'll be very good. Um, Yeah, well, I mean, there's something around there, isn't there? Definitely and not just not just this one sentence of like, I have to be on, we'll have all sorts of different ways of like, I
Mm,
can't escape or whatever it is we might be saying. It's like, just asking ourselves, is that true? Like, what
mm,
does that actually mean? People will often say this thing. I've said this many times in my life, I can't switch off, right? To like dig into that a bit. Like, I think that's the kind of thing where getting some coaching or something could be very helpful because those kinds of statements, they're showing like an underlying
yeah.
structure, a way that we
Well,
relate.
the thing that was really interesting was because the first thing I said to her was, "Who says that you have to be on all the time?"
Mm,
And then she kind of thought from it, and then went off into this and there's that, and then yeah, but who said? Who said?
mm,
And then it's like you see like the penny dropping of like, oh, hang on a minute, self-induced. Ah, okay.
mm.
Which is hence why the boundaries conversation came in.
And also, the energy that we kind of carry, that very often kind of frenetic, very, I want to do this now, sped up energy, um, is very often, it's actually in the slowing down that we actually receive what we're looking for in the speeding up.
Mm,
It's really innocent, but we've often got caught up in some kind of idea about ourselves, and it's usually something along the lines of us not being, okay or something like that, one way or another, or not being whole, or not being, and that we need, and so we might, I find myself speeding up if I ever get caught up in the idea that fuck, I need to create something because then I'll be okay. Like then I'll really speed up when actually it's right here in this moment where I'm going to be like, no, you're fine, man. Like it's right now, you're fine. You can build from that platform. That's a much more powerful platform. And it might be kind of whenever we're rushing, there's often something very, very useful for us to see. And people say a lot like, oh, I always do this. I rush through everything. I rush through my meals. I rush through.
mm,
There's something for us to see there. And it's not always, the thing is, it's not always as simple as just taking a breath because you're still, you're kind of, you kind of reverse engineering slowing down. Like we're going to stay fast for as long as it makes sense for us to stay fast. And there might be a very good reason for it as well. Like we might have learned something at some point where it seemingly is a good idea. So we need to dig in. Need to dig into that. So for anyone who's listening, who's thinking, yeah, I'm a bit of a rusher, that's the kind of thing that you could get coaching on, or that you could join a coaching group and explore, because, there might be something really amazing there, because we can go to a work do, the exact same work do, and there'll be like 50 people there. 10 of them will feel like they're rushing through it with all sorts of experience. There's that yawn. And there'll be another 10 people. It's so funny how when I do that, when I do the clips of it, there's like often it does like a zoom in and I'm talking and you're just basically doing this big yawn. It's fucking
I've got
hilarious.
3 kids, mate. I'm fucked,
It's fine,
especially
well,
after last night. Oh my god.
no, you're
I
not.
do apologize. I'm very conscious
No,
that I'm
it's fine.
yawning all the way through
It's
this,
so
but
funny. It
it's
just
not
makes me
because you're
laugh.
boring
Yeah,
or boring me.
heard that before. No, it's okay. I get it.
Going to coach you, Sam.
No, no, it's fine. Um, but yeah, so just to dig in and explore that, and like, and it's not that those kinds of interventions, like I said, of taking a breath or taking a pause or leaving the room, it's not that they're not very helpful. It's not that they're like banned or anything. Like I really think they're powerful. Like do those things, but if there's a pattern that keeps showing up, leaving a room to take a breath, as powerful as that is in the moment, is not going to be the thing that kind of reverse engineers the breakthrough necessarily. It might be, we might see the thing we need to see, taking a breath, but it's more likely that we're going to see it through when we're getting curious about it. And we're like, why am I like this? Why do I seem to always be wired this way or wired that way?
Well, without going off on too much of a tangent, this is why there's a big difference for me between using modalities like breath or movement. There's a big difference between using it as a method of supporting oneself and holding oneself through an experience versus bypassing. And the infamous one is the conversation. I may have said this before on the podcast. There was a lady in a path group, and she came to this call and she said to me, "Well, Ellie, it basically felt, some kind of like irritation, agitation, discomfort. And well, I went for a walk, still there. Did some Tai Chi, still there. And I infamously went, you're not going to Tai Chi." And it's like this movement, like as if that's how you do Tai Chi, because you don't. I said, you're not going to Tai Chi your way out of it. Because what she was doing was, I mean, lovely that she was moving towards those things and reaching for those things versus booze or another substance. But if you're using something like that as a mechanism to change your state, then therein lies the problem.
I mean, yeah, what if your body just wants you to feel something? It's like, what if your body's like, you're sad. It's time to feel sad for a minute. And we're open to it. And so yeah, you can Tai Chi or surf or chess or I just could, or like make, do whatever you want till the cows come home. But it's not gonna, none of that is gonna be the replacement for what your system just wants to do, which is just
Yeah.
the energy.
Well, I had a really interesting one yesterday because I was with Pearl, my eldest, and I needed to go. This is how boring my life is at the minute. I needed to go to my old neighbour, who's known me for many, many, many years. My old next door neighbour. Oh, of course, to get her to sign. Get this. This is how old I am now, Sam. To get her to sign my lasting power of attorneys, right?
Got it.
So she's my certificate provider. So off I go with Pearl. And because of where she lives, we had to drive past our old house, right? And Pearl hasn't been there for a good long time now because it's been sold and somebody else, another family's moved in. And as we were driving towards it, she recognized, oh, hang on, we're going to be going past our old house. And you could tell that there were some thought generated stuff that was going on and some feelings were starting to come to the surface. And as we got closer, she said to me, she said, when we go past our old house, I'm going to close my eyes. And I said, oh, so that's interesting, love. Why are you going to close your eyes? And she said, because it will make me feel sad. How sweet is that? That she wants to close her eyes and kind of has this sense that feeling sad is to be avoided somehow, And so very gently, I encouraged her to not, or to consider not closing her eyes and to allow the feeling of the sadness. And I was talking to her about, yeah, it's very sad. I still, and how I felt, I still feel very sad and I miss the house. And the thing that was beautiful was as we went past the house, we both kind of like looked at it and said hello to the old house. And she was perfectly like okay. She didn't, collapse into floods of tears or anything. But I'm so thankful that we had that opportunity because she's got the proof, within of, oh, like I might think that something is going to take me down or that I'm going to crumble under the weight of something, but actually I'm capable of including the whole thing.
Oh, it's a nice share.
It was a nice share. It was a nice share. I was really, really proud of her, And this is the difference that, for all of our listeners, even if you think that you are doing a terrible job as a human being or a parent or a worker or whatever, or a non-drinker or whatever you're attempting to be proficient at right now, just the fact that you are looking in this direction and that you are willing and that you are open and that you have the propensity to turn inward, it's huge because we have little eyes and big eyes looking at us, and it makes a difference. And that will make that interaction will hopefully make a big difference to Pearl and her capacity to uh, navigate her own emotional landscape.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and that's so huge because often it's the kind of worry of like, oh, I'm not going to be able to feel that, or I'm not going to be able to handle that. And it's, of course we can. We've been built to feel all that stuff. It's about breathing through it and like, either literally or metaphorically keeping our eyes open, right?
mm,
And being with it. And that's amazing. Yeah. And I think when we're that
it,
age, they're powerful moments because you remember things like that.
you do, and you imagine the potential difference if she'd have closed her eyes through that experience. Then
Yeah.
every time she'd have gone past the house in the future or faced another feeling of right, I'm just going to close my eyes and resist it.
Released a potentially released a samskara real time. There you
Oh
were.
fuck yeah, I have.
Do the
Yeah,
thing.
do I get a
No,
high
you're
five for
not.
that? So
There you go. One, and we'll do like a Rishi Sunak one where you do that. Have you seen that? Where he's doing a TikTok? Because you know this thing that the kids do, where you put your hand over like that, and when you take your hand off, you're
and
in
then
a
somebody
different
else
place.
appears.
Oh yeah, or you're in a different place. You're like on the beach or something. Rishi Sunak just like does that, like pulls his hand back, and he's just done that. He's just in the same place.
Oh,
It's
he's such a
fucking
fucking
brilliant.
dick.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
God.
Anyway, um, let's get political. No, let's not get political.
I got really political on the call yesterday.
Did you? Oh
Fucking
yeah,
Tories.
definitely suggest not getting hyper political. Anyhow, do you know what though? I think it is another thing that came up on this call that I had with this lady the other day was it was a pretty similar experience. She had her work due coming up, first time doing it alcohol free, I think. Forgive me if you're listening. Um, but and I sort of said, I said, are you staying in the place? She was like, oh yeah. I was like, well, have you considered that on the hour, you just go down for the first hour, have your alcohol-free drink or whatever it is, and then on the hour, you go up to your
Mm.
room and just take a breath for a minute. Because that kind of thing, it's like it's very easy to relate to that. It's like, I've got to be on for 5 days. But it's like, really? Like life's only ever moment by moment by moment. Like if we're thinking in terms of a 5 day thing that we've got to handle in one moment, like that's going to be overwhelming. But if we're thinking in terms of like bit by bit by bit, are you all right? Are you
And I was
copying
just
what
going to go do 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 because that's what I said to. I nearly said her
Oh,
name
right.
there. I said the same thing. I said,
Yeah, yeah.
well,
You
what about
probably
if you
heard me say it.
fuck you? I just told you this before we
Where
started
are your
recording, so you
where are
just
your
made
good
that
ideas?
story up.
Where your good ideas come from, innit? Me.
I said to her, why don't you just set a little alarm on your phone, and
Yeah.
then every hour you get a reminder to just go outside. I said, go outside, stand outside. And you could, because I don't know why, I was walking the dogs and I felt the need to do this as I was walking the dogs. I think it might have been because I was climbing. I did some climbing the other day.
What,
I
like
thought,
indoor or
fuck
outdoor?
me. Indoor on a climbing wall. I haven't done
Mate,
that since I was, I don't know, in my 20s. I used to fucking love it. And I climbed up this wall and I was like, oh, I forgot about this. Fucking love it. And I got to the
sweet.
top and then I went, oh, I've got to let go now. And I haven't let go for 20 years. Woo.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't have to let go because it's all bouldering, so I make my way back down.
so I then promptly looked into, is there a climbing wall in Cambridge that's
Sure there is.
roped?
Mm.
And there isn't, there's bouldering. So I might just start bouldering instead.
Oh yeah, you'll love it. See? Cool
But I
kid.
think I needed to do this because, of course, you're working all of this,
Mm.
all of the muscle. So anyway, so I was walking around like, so that was top of mind. I said to go outside and do some like power posy type stuff, or lie in the grass outside. Feel the sun in your face, even if it's just for 60 seconds, and then you go
Mm.
back in again. You're getting a little recharge
Yeah. Well, I
throughout the
mean,
day.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is, if your room's upstairs, I don't see because we have these ideas of what we can or can't do, don't we? But
Yeah,
there's no reason why we can't just go upstairs and just chill out for 15 minutes or something. It's fine. And as I say, it's like those things are very powerful. Any kind of somatic work is amazing. It may be, I know I said it's not necessarily the thing that's going to shift the pattern, but it might be because very often, if something like that brings up something in us, just going and taking 10 minutes or 15 minutes to go and breathe and be with those feelings may actually be the very thing that we need in order to process the loop. Like, so if you think about Pearl driving past the house, seemingly the thing that she most wanted to avoid was something that was potentially going to be very, very healing. So
Mm.
whenever we go into these events, they're a huge opportunity for that conditioning to come up.
Yeah.
And we meet that guy who's an asshole, and it brings that thing up, and we feel reactive, but then we take a minute to breathe and feel it, and don't run away or don't avoid it.
Mm.
Um, and things can start looking very different. I mean, I know for me, I'm someone who, for the longest time, thought I would never ever be able to kind of be confident with people that I haven't met before. And I'm not always confident now, right? We were talking about this, but I can do things now that seemingly would have been weird to me. I would have been like, what? Like, so I think I don't know if I told you, I went on a man date with my phlebotomist the other day.
What the fuck?
So basically, every 6 months, I get my bloods taken, and do do a blood panel or whatever, just to have a look at what's going
And
on.
you're having a bromance with your
And
phlebotomist?
there's this absolute legend. He's well cool. And I was like, so after the second time, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna ask this guy if he wants to go for a coffee. So we went for a burger on Friday night, and I think
Oh,
we've got a new
Sam.
friend. But that
Oh,
kind of thing,
Sam. I'm
yeah.
really happy for you, mate.
Oh, thanks. That kind of
Oh.
thing. I'd never have done that a few years ago. Never. Never in a million years, right? And sometimes these days it's like, well, take risks, just throw yourself in, go and say that thing. And it's weird because I I don't know. It's weird. It's how things can change. It
You
is very,
just
very odd.
imagine I invited that there's a lady that made some curtains for me and we were getting on like a house on fire and I
There you go.
invited her. First of all, I was like, God, I think even she might have said to me, like, oh, maybe you should go like for a
There you
coffee or
go.
something. So we were about to arrange it and I messaged her and I went, oh, do you fancy coming along to this gong bath? And she's like, oh, lovely, yeah, what's that all about? And I started to tell her and then never heard from her again.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Maybe that wasn't for her.
You think you're a weird hippie.
Yeah. Oh my God, I didn't think you were a hippie.
You
Shit.
said, what did she initially think it was? Just some bath.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe she's sex people, and she thought it was some kind of like sex bath thing.
And when as soon as she learned it wasn't a sex bath, she was like, fuck that.
Yeah, fuck
She
that.
was like,
I'm only
I'm
into
gonna
the
lie
sex
somewhere
bath
and listen
thing.
to sounds when I could be in a sex
It could be a sex party. Jesus.
bath. Anyway, this is great. So yeah, so there were no sex baths on Friday night. We just went out for a burger. But it was fair. But my point is it's amazing what can shift. And the moment we say to ourselves, the moment we identify as something being us, it becomes problematic. And whenever we say I am blah blah blah
Mm.
and relate to that thing as if it's fixed, permanent, we very often just find evidence for that, but you might surprise yourself. You have that moment where you just fall into connection with one person or whatever.
Or many
um,
people at a
yeah.
sex party.
With sex people. People listening, they're going to be like, what are sex people?
Well, you've got to watch Alan Partridge for that. They're
That's true.
sex people, Lynn.
Lynn,
Right. I
Lynn
want to
is
talk.
so good. Lynn is so good in that program.
Lynn. Oh
So
no,
good.
she's brilliant, isn't she? And she's totally like when you see her in real life, how different she is from Lynn.
Oh,
Cracking actress.
she's such she plays that part so well. A lot of people in America. I know that our
Like,
good friend Mr. Scott Pinyard, he like laps up British comedy and stuff, and so I'm sure many of our listeners do.
yeah,
But if you don't know who Alan Partridge is,
please look him up.
well, have a
He's
look.
my idol. I watched Alpha Papa, which is um for those that don't know, it's one of the Alan Partridge films, and it's so fucking. It's one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen, and it's that bit where Lynn's hair, she gets her hair done to go on camera, and then Alan sees her and he's like, "Oh, your hair looks like it's exploded." It's like, oof.
They filmed some of that where my mum and dad live, because there's parts of
Is
it
it a
filmed in
Caister?
Cromer and I think
Oh my
like
God.
up the Norfolk coast and stuff like that. But anyhow, we
Oh God, we
digress.
got on a tangent again. So anyway, let's talk about the other stuff. Let's just rattle off a bunch of stuff like that people can do. And now I've forgotten all the things that I said to this lady. Let me have a think. What did I say to her? One of the things I did, oh, actually, here's the frame. What I said to her was, you get to plan, kind of restoring you, and giving yourself these, I was about to say dollops, little dollops of self-care before. So what are you going to do before? What are you going to do during? And then what are you going to do after?
Yeah.
And the after bit's really important, because there can often be and we've definitely talked about this before on the show. We've talked about, to use the term, like getting through something alcohol free, coming out the other side and then going, and absentmindedly drinking or something else, because we haven't thought about what might happen from a nervous system perspective afterwards. So one of the things I said to this lady was, are you going to, well, what happens when it finishes? Oh, well, I'd get a flight back, and what? So you're going to rush straight home and then get back into mum mode and doing mode? Well, that's what I typically do. Right. Well, if it's within your financial means, why don't you stay another night? Like, stay another night, have a good night's sleep, have a bath or a spa or a massage, or do something like that, nice dinner, and then go back well rested the next day, because you'll have more to offer your family by doing that, for the sake of the investment of time and money for a night away.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It is very important, actually. Ages ago, when I first used to work with people around events and stuff, I used to do a before, during, and after kind of thing as well. And yeah, there's loads of stuff that we could talk about. There's having our intention for it, rather than having a bunch of expectations of how it's definitely going to go and it always goes this way and all that kind of stuff. Like aligning with an intention. What do you want to discover about yourself? Planning those boundaries around time, around, is it going upstairs to your room for an hour? Is it popping outside for a breath? Is it having a time when you're going to leave? And actually just going at like 9 o'clock at night or whatever. And when people say to you, just be like, I don't want to feel like shit in the morning. And like, that's enough. There's no need for you to explain yourself or any of that stuff. And if they whinge or whatever, that's their problem, right? It's working to have your boundaries and your business set up around or just sneak out. just sneak out
Well, the other thing that's interesting about this sort of stuff is, when you start to do it, it gives permission to other people to do it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so fucking glad that you decided that because now I'm going to do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's important, Beforehand, for me, it's about preparation. Plan. We can try and come up with a plan, but the thing about planning, I think, is often that it doesn't always go according to plan. So what's the preparation we can do? Can we figure out whether they've got alcohol-free drinks ahead of time, all that kind of stuff? Have you got a dog issue? Is there a dog issue happening? Or is there a sneezing issue?
I just had to have a really big cough, but I felt like I was going to throw up, Mr. Sam. So
Yeah,
if I
don't do that.
disappear,
Yeah, all right. Don't do that. Okay, I'll crack on. And yeah, I think knowing that just going and practicing genuine curiosity with people, saying to yourself, I'm going to be genuinely curious. I'm going to learn some stuff about these people, even if they're people that you already know or that you think you know well, and get asking questions and get listening and see what happens because the moment you think it's about you and how you show up rather than how you get curious with other people. Look at, they just got the magic finger. What's the magic finger about?
Did you get one of those through the post recently?
No. Why have I not got one of them?
Well, I'm sure you'll have one winging its way to you. I just realised it was there. Look.
Oh, that's great. No, I don't have one of them. That looks like something from Chicken Run.
Yeah, but a blue chicken run.
Yeah.
That's courtesy of Nonna Sean.
Oh, it's great. That's so good. Yeah,
It's the bird.
like
For
those
people that are not
things.
watching, it's the bird.
Look in the bird.
Oh, don't do that on the.
Ellie's currently freaking out because her dog is doing something. I don't know what it is. This is probably quite a good one to watch on YouTube because it's been an absolute shit show. So, we're going to release it exactly as it was recorded. And so there's all that. And I love the idea of that. Do you know what? I think also so me and Rob often go to a festival every summer. And one thing that I think can be very powerful after something like that is to not like drive straight home and crash bang straight back into life, but to actually go and take a night in a hotel somewhere, just have a good night's sleep, have a shower, chill out, and then drive back the next day after a good night's sleep and all the rest of it. Those transitions are important. Big time.
Yes, yeah. It's
Mm.
like you get to assimilate stuff, don't you? What fucking dogs, man. Honest to God. I love them, but wowee.
Pains in the ass, isn't they? Release the hounds. Um,
You and I definitely, I nearly said that a second ago. And then I thought,
yeah.
no, I'm not going to say that because it's rather random. And then you've just said
ADHD, I can do what I like.
it.
So I just yeah, I think all of those things, and but more than anything, I think it is trusting that you literally have a source of wisdom and guidance that's gonna, with no thinking in your mind whatsoever, with the
Mm,
less that you've got going on, and the more you're just in that room, connected to people, curious, just learning about them, you're gonna do okay. And even if you're someone who
yeah.
doesn't like big groups, if you only like small groups, all that, yeah, all of that taken into account, it's the same for all of us. The more insecure we feel, the more challenging it feels, and the less we've
Mm,
got going on in our head, the easier it all seems.
yeah.
To do the things that are going to help you have less going on.
Yeah. So I think putting a little bit of thought in beforehand can be really helpful. For example, one of the people on the call said they'd been to a similar sort of thing and they took with them um, a touchstone. So it was something to kind of anchor them into
Nice.
their intention. And of course, the folks that are in the path get their alive stone. So this lady went, "Oh, I'm going to take my alive stone," because
Mm.
she can just have that in her pocket and she can
Yeah.
just, smooth her fingers over it. Lovely little thing. So I think that can be really helpful. But what you're saying about, yeah, essential oils, lovely. But what you're saying about just having that fortitude, that steadfast and serve, like even without going along with a bag of like a kit bag, I've got
Mm.
everything that I need within me. And if I can allow myself to be present enough to tune into the guidance, like I'll know what to do. I'll know whether it's I need a minute outside to power pause, or whether I want to go and lie down in my room for 10 minutes, or whether I need to eat something. I mean, this is the other thing I was talking to this lady about was um, making sure, irrespective of what you're kind of being served, but making sure that you have got access to things that are going
Yeah.
to nourish you from a food perspective and hydrating, because really basic stuff like that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Yeah, it does. It really, really does. So yeah, all that stuff's really important, because I love what you said earlier. There's a huge difference between using anything as like an attempt to try and bypass something that might be really helpful,
Mm,
and actually just supporting ourselves to just have the experience that we're having.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, yeah, I love that.
Mm,
Sweet.
mm.
So
Oh,
good place to pause, maybe, or
yeah,
stop.
maybe. Um, I was just thinking earlier about, oh God, this is like, it's so fucking ADHD, this episode. Because earlier on, when you were talking about ADHD, I was like, oh my God, the squirrel. And then the other day on a call, it was like, I was in the moment with somebody. The fucking dog saw a squirrel outside, and that was it. Bark fest. I'm distracted by the squirrel, telling everyone about the squirrel.
It can happen. It can happen. It
Mm.
can happen to all of us, can't it? But yeah, it's well, I think we've done quite well. I think people often say,
All things considered,
yeah, exactly. People seem to think that these things are much more planned than they are. That seems to be the general consensus.
well, I think it's because we're consummate professionals.
Yeah, that is definitely how I would describe myself.
It's the trademark of the podcast.
Putting it in sober. Consummate professionals. Love it.
Yeah.
Right, team. Go forth. Have a fantastic work do. And of course, this is applicable to any do. Doesn't have any shindig. Any,
Mm.
love that word. Um,
Shindig.
yeah, anything that fits in the category of event. This is obviously applicable to. So yeah.
Sex parties,
Sex parties, yeah. Yeah.
or all of the above.
Make sure you try. Make sure you stop for an extra night. Just chill out. Anyway.
I just nearly came out with another Alan Partridge one. It's a bit rude, so I'll maybe leave that one for another day. But for the blue episode that our members get to listen to.
Yeah, okay. We'll do that. We'll make it even more blue. You've been very sweary recently. I've not been feeling very sweary recently.
I think it's, but well, I was about to say on a serious note, I do think that some of it is like, I think it's a somatic practice.
There you go.
It's a release.
There you
And
go.
there's also been quite an interesting discussion to be had around, is bloody a swear word?
Well, I mean,
Because it was when I was a kid.
well,
But
yeah, I mean, in the UK, it definitely was like considered something like that. But isn't it weird that we can use a word that is absolutely in another context not a swear word?
mm,
You know?
there's loads of those.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, swear words are mad. No, it's maybe a topic for another podcast.
I
Isn't that
bring the
weird?
kids on, they'll love it.
I
Mummy,
used
is
to do,
crap a swear word?
I
Because
used to,
Thomas Crapper invented the toilet.
there you go. I used to do when I worked, this is a cool little finishing note. When I worked in special ed, I used to do lessons on swearing and stuff like that because for many of the kids, like they didn't have a clue about like when they could, would, should, when it's like up to them, all the rest of it. So we used to they used to be like, "Sir, you can't be doing that, sir." And I was like, "Yeah, well, we're doing it, so it's all
This
good."
sounds like our car ride to school the other day. Oh no,
Yeah.
yesterday. Because Pearl was like talking about swearing. I said to her, look, love, swearing's not the issue.
Mm.
It's, you know, it's the context in which that you're swearing, and it's having consideration for people around you that, you know, and I was giving her examples. So I said something to her like, if you were going to oh god, how did I phrase it? I said something like, if you were going to like call me, I don't know, ass bag, I think I said, mummy, you're an ass bag, then not so good. But if you were going to call me like, oh, mummy, you've been an ass bag, okay. Like it's
Mm.
context, the intention, the audience.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, agreed. It's a whoa. I've got more of these soil flies. Less of them though. They're on the way out.
Like the lice, like the head lice.
I'd rather have soil flies than head lice. I'd rather have, well, actually, I don't know if I want soil flies in my hair. Right, we need to stop now. Right, everybody, love you.
Yo, thanks
Say
for
bye,
bearing with
Elliot
us.
Crow.
Bye.
Bye.